Good afternoon. We're going to do a building section, and that is coming from page AE 303. And if you look at the building in this little section here, it's an overview of the building. The section that we're going to be looking at is this little section right down here. So it's as if you're standing where the little cursor is here, looking at the building with a cutaway view, looking in that direction, which would be looking toward the east. So anyway, getting onto the building here. It is this section here, and there's a little walkway underneath which is exposed to the exterior, and there is a soffit area here. So the soffit area is metal, it's perforated. There's another detail somewhere else that shows that, but what it would look like is this product here. And what this does is it covers it up from the outside, so it's a nice looking uniform surface, but also in here there are little perforated sections that allow airflow to get inside, so that if the enclosed area, anything in that enclosed area would have a little bit of ventilation, but it's still protected from the elements. Getting back to the actual drawing. So starting from the bottom here, these are exterior walls, but the section above the soffit starts out with some steel framing, which follows through. This is the vertical piece, and then the horizontal member of the I-beam comes off of the vertical piece. And that would be coming toward us in the diagram. And that particular girder is supporting a concrete floor, which is put on a corrugated piece of steel. The steel is laid down and fastened to the actual framing members, which would be this girder and others like it. And then the actual concrete slab is poured on top of that to a specified thickness with a certain PSI mix on the concrete. That's all in the specifications. On the outside, we have a curtain wall that begins here and it goes up, and that is insulated behind it. And then there is spray foam insulation that's sprayed onto a certain specification, which if we go over here to look at the key notes, number 18 shows that it's 6-inch closed cell spray foam insulation, under slab and structure. And that comes in and ties in with the insulation that's in the walls. So as we go up on this, we see number 3, just getting back to the notes, is an aluminum curtain wall ceiling, structure, excuse me. We go further up. We have number 8 specs out some of the lights that are used. In this case, it's a hanging lighting fixture. And then the ceilings themselves have specification over here, which is number 10, and that indicates that this is a suspended gypsum board ceiling. So it's sheetrock that's hung on framing, which is hung from wires, which attaches up here. They have detail for that, but that gives you a smooth surface rather than having something like acoustic tiles, which you see a lot of. As long as we're over here, we have keynote number 1, which talks about the roofing. They reference back to the roof plan. The roof plan has a very specific detail on how this works, but it's a membrane where the solid line is, and then we have insulation under it, and then there's decking that's underneath that, and then we come down to this joist, which is actually a web truss of sorts that's made out of steel. That is indicated in number 9, and the dotted line shows that there are joists behind what we are seeing in the picture, so it's a continuous run of joists. As we go over, this little guy here indicates another cross-section view, and that would be spec'd out on section A5 on sheet AE 301. We have a hyperlink set up on that, so if you click that, it goes right to it. So here we have another beam that, if you follow that dot dash line down, you see that it ties into structure down here all the way down to the bottom. The rooms are labeled for their use. We have an office space here. We have a hall waiting area. Shows the doors. Shows that this is a conference room with a whiteboard. Let's see, what else have we got in here? More girder stuff. I think we talked about that already. We go to the top. It shows a parapet wall, and it shows how the curtain wall goes completely up to the top. So basically the cross-cut section just shows everything that you would look at if you had cut the wall away and you were able to stand and look right straight down the wall. It shows everything that's involved in that. So my understanding of this construction drawings kind of changed once I looked at that. I'm used to residential, but one of the big things for me was that all of the steel structural stuff is inside of the actual exterior walls. And I think the reason that they do that, it's twofold. One, the curtain walls are a separate assembly that get installed on top of the building on the outside versus residential construction, which I'm used to, where the wall is actually the structure. In this case, the structure is the frame, the skeleton of it, and then they work off of that. And the girders and the heavy steel actually supports the floor. The concrete floor is poured on top of that with the corrugated sheet metal underneath. But you can see you have an I-beam here. You have another I-beam that comes off of it, and that's spray foamed in there. So all of this stuff is much heavier than any kind of residential construction. I didn't really look at the windows and the curtain walls as a separate item, but I like those, and I didn't realize that they were made separately, possibly because they're lighter than trying to do a brick building. It's a faster method of construction. It gives it a more modern look on the outside, and it cuts down on a lot of the exterior framing that might be necessary if you're going to use brick on the outside. Because of the extra weight, you'd have to have ledgers and extra steel structure welded onto the outside. Just a side note that's not really on here, but in looking through plans otherwise, I didn't know that they welded the steel as well as bolting it together. I always thought it was just bolted together, so that was pretty interesting. Those are some of my observations on this. So that's the end of this little video, and we'll go on to do the next one in a little bit.